Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a health story that actually started with a celebrity moment and ended up sparking a huge global conversation about a condition most people had never even heard of.
So, after a red carpet video went viral and unfortunately drew a ton of body-shaming comments, Selena Gomez hit back with this really powerful response. And in it, she revealed her diagnosis of small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO for short.
And just like that, she put a massive spotlight on what's often a really misunderstood and, well, an invisible illness. So what exactly is SIBO? Why does it happen? And what can you even do about it? Let's break it all down.
Okay, so first things first, let's get a really clear idea of what we're talking about here. SIBO is all about the microbiome, that incredibly complex world of tiny organisms living inside all of us.
To put it really simply, it's when bacteria that are supposed to be living in other parts of your gut, we're talking mainly the large intestine, start to, move in and multiply where they shouldn't be, in your small intestine.
And get this, the sheer scale we're dealing with is just mind-blowing. Your body is home to over 10 times trillion bacteria. That's actually more bacteria than you have human cells. But they're not the bad guys. They play this vital role in digestion, working together with your body.
So the issue isn't really the bacteria themselves. It's all about their location and just how many of them there are. When certain types of bacteria start overgrowing in the small intestine, they begin fermenting the food you eat way too early in the digestive process. And that produces a ton of excess gas, like hydrogen or methane, which leads to this whole cascade of really disruptive and uncomfortable symptoms.
So you're probably wondering, how would you even know if you have SIBO, especially when its symptoms can look like so many other conditions? Well, let's take a look at the most common signs.
Yeah, the list is pretty long and these symptoms are persistent. We're talking about things like abdominal pain, serious gassiness, and that feeling of being constantly bloated, which, by the way, Dr. Rudolph Bedford says is one of the most common complaints. For some people, it can even lead to weight loss and malabsorption, which means your body just isn't getting the nutrients it needs from your food.
Okay, now this is the tricky part. The medical community is pretty open about the fact that SIBO isn't totally understood just yet. There's no single cause. But what we do know is that ongoing research is pointing to a bunch of potential triggers and related health issues that can kind of create the perfect storm for this bacterial overgrowth.
So it can be linked to issues with something called gut motility, which is basically just a fancy way of saying how food moves through your system. But, and this is a big one, it's also associated with other major health conditions. And this is where Selena Gomez's story comes right back into focus. See, she lives with lupus and she's had a kidney transplant, both of which often mean taking immunosuppressive drugs. And according to Dr. Bedford, those exact medications can make a person way more likely to develop a bacterial overgrowth like SIBO.
Now for the really crucial question, what can be done about it? Well, while there's no cure for SIBO right now, the good news is there are definitely effective ways to manage the symptoms and get that balance back in your gut.
And it's so important to understand that treatment isn't about, getting rid of all the bacteria. It's much more surgical than that. The whole goal is to target the specific types that have overgrown and are causing all the problems, all to bring the gut's ecosystem back to a healthier state.
Doctors usually take a multi-pronged approach because it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. Treatment might kick off with specific antibiotics, like Xifaxan, to really reduce that overgrowth. Then, that's often combined with a special short-term diet, like a low FODMAP diet, which helps starve the problematic bacteria. And what's really interesting is that some studies are showing certain herbal supplements can be just as effective as antibiotics for some people.
So after that initial phase of reducing the bacteria, the focus totally shifts to maintenance and prevention. This is where probiotics come into play. The whole idea is to, as our source material puts it, replant the soil with good, beneficial bacteria to help prevent it from coming back. And you can do this with supplements or by adding naturally fermented foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, and kefir into your diet.
So, after digging into the science, the symptoms, and all the strategies, what are the most important things to walk away with from this whole explainer?
Let's recap real quick. First, SIBO is a real, complex medical condition. It's not just a simple upset stomach. Second, it's often connected to other underlying health issues. Third, while there isn't a cure, there are absolutely clear and effective strategies to manage it. And finally, Selena Gomez's honesty is such a powerful reminder that behind all these clinical terms are real people just trying to navigate the daily challenges of a chronic and very often invisible illness.
Ultimately, this story is so much bigger than just one person or one condition. It leaves us with a bigger question, really, about empathy and understanding. It challenges all of us to think about the invisible health battles that our friends, our family, and our colleagues might be fighting in private. And it reminds us that a little bit of grace can go a very, very long way.